Spirits aren't personal property, nor is God.
Papa Hector! Oh my god, I am loving these videos that you are cranking out. Loving. Those of you who are watching this video, go back, watch all these other videos on this particular topic. Watch all the videos, period. But the video that I stitched, I wanted to touch on this one little piece in particular because I get so many questions, so many opinions, and a lot of feedback around this particular phrase that is, spirits are not our personal property, neither is God, neither is divine, right? So before I begin, my name is Leilani, all right, and I'm from The Magical Solution, and I'm actually going to be teaching a class about the spirits with regards to Espiritismo this Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want more on this subject, definitely sign up for that class. But anyway, so I stitched this because I constantly get told that, we Espiritistas are eclectic, appropriators and colonizers because we claim to work with all spirits, and that includes spirits of closed practices, and that we can't do that. That's not we're not a part of those closed practices, right? And that includes ancestral practices because ancestors belong to a specific bloodline. So how can we interact or, work with people who are of a different ancestry than yours, right? So let me go back. Let's go back to this stitched little piece that Papa Hector said. Spirits are not personal property, neither is God, neither is divine. I really need you to sit with this for a moment, okay? I need you to sit with this for a moment because from the perspective of Espiritistas, through the lineage of spiritualism, okay, the way that we understand spirits, all spirits, and that includes ancestral spirits, is that they are spirit first and then incarnated human, if that was their path. They are spirit first, right? And when we come from that perspective, there's a couple of things that need to be understood. I like to consider myself a spirit advocate. I really do. I like to consider myself a spirit advocate because spirit has autonomy. Sit with that. Spirit has autonomy. Spirit, when they are not in a body, okay, and even when they are in a body, but specifically we're talking about spirits that we're dealing with who are already discarnate, right? When they are not in a body, they are not beholden to the material, right? Or at least that is what we are aiming for them. We as Espiritistas, we see spirits as autonomous beings, autonomous energies that are progressing and elevating their way back to source, okay? And with every incarnation, there are lessons. With every ancestral bloodline that they choose to incarnate in, there are lessons. Whomever they choose to assist after death to be their spirit guides, there are lessons. So there is nothing that is being done by accident. And we as Espiritistas, we see the spirit journey first. Then we see the traditions and the cultures that those spirits decided to manifest in at any given time. And whatever their most recent incarnation is, that is what we will honor and go through to connect to them. But essentially, as spirit evolves, as spirit elevates, they become less and less dependent upon the material world, and the material ways in which we connect with them. Okay? And so in essence, and again, this is going to sound appropriative, it's going to sound, culture vulture, it's going to sound colonizer, but when you're looking at it as spirit first, there is no such thing in this scenario as spirits being yours. They're not your property, right? Because, and it's the same way as we look at each other, right? Like, you're not going to look at your boyfriend or girlfriend and be like, that's mine, that's my property. You're not going to look at your kids as, that's mine, that's my property. No, these are autonomous human beings, and also autonomous spirits incarnated in human being form. So we don't possess that. We can't possess that. We may have connection to it, deep-seated and deep-rooted connection to it, based on our ancestry or based on our lineage or based on our initiations or whatever, but we do not possess them. And they do not possess us. And that's another thing we can get into a whole other conversation about, okay? And so, you know, when we look at this from spirit advocacy, what we are saying essentially is that when we do our work, when we do our ancestral work, when we do our spirit guide work, when we spend time at the Mesa, when we go to Misa, we are there to elevate not only the participants in the Misa, not only yourself when you're at the altar, but the spirits whom you are interacting with. And we see that first before we see where they come from and what lifetime they decided to incarnate in and all that. Like, those are good tools for connection, but they are not the only tools that we can use to connect with them. Okay? Spirit, because of their autonomy, also have the right to interact with and work with whoever they want. So when someone says to you, no, that's not the Madama talking to you, or no, that's not Oshun talking to you, or no, from this perspective, who's to say it's not? Who's to say it's not from this perspective? Now, from that particular, from those other perspectives, you would have to go through X, Y, and Z to interact with those spirits and work with those spirits, etc., etc. From the Espiritismo perspective, if that spirit is reaching out to you and you've done the discernment and you have done your due diligence with regards to if this really is what it is, then we won't deny that. We won't deny that. But yeah, so I wanted to just kind of talk about that a little bit because, you know, we get so caught up, especially when I teach classes on spirits. We get so caught up in who's my primary spirit guide, you know, who walks with me, how do I connect with them, I want to know their whole life story, I want to know this, I want to know that. You're only knowing one little piece of their infinite, multifaceted lifespan, okay? These are spirits that have been reborn over and over and over and over again. And each life is going to be a different lesson, something different. And so, you know, when you're getting caught up in those other details, yes, that's helpful in terms of you going to your altar and finding sort of like a focal point to focus on, to connect to them. That's great. But you have to remember that eventually that focal point will start to dissipate. The spirit themselves will want less and less from you because they're elevating. Anyway, I went off on an entirely different rant. You don't own your spirits don't own you, okay? At least not from this perspective. These aren't properties. These are autonomous spiritual beings. And as a spirit advocate, I remember getting pissed off watching ghost hunting shows because as a spiritual advocate, you're going into these places, interacting with these spirits, and then you're not helping them to cross over? You're not helping them to elevate? You're just letting them stay there and do whatever? That's crazy to me, right? So like things like that, when you're a spirit advocate, you start to see where we fuck up as a community. But anyway, I hope you found this information helpful. If you have any questions or if you want to see different perspectives, please leave me a comment. Hope you like, share, subscribe, all the things. And again, my name is Leilani. This is The Magical Solution, and this is how we grow. Make sure you go to my website to sign up for my classes, www.themagicalsolution.com.